Good evening. Welcome to another edition of the Gersnet Podcast, the independent Rangers podcast by fans for fans, where all your content is absolutely free. Coming to you in association with Forrest Precision Engineering. I'm your host tonight, Ryan Archer, and as always, we'd encourage you to get onto the Gersnet website and check out our forums for all your latest Rangers news and discussions. We're live tonight on the YouTube channel, and we would ask that you continue to share the pod on social media, spread the word, and please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Before I introduce my guests for tonight, I need to give another mention to our partners over at Forrest Precision Engineering. They're a Glasgow-based engineering company who have been a big commercial supporter of Rangers for a number of years, and we're delighted to have them supporting the pod. If you want more information about them, please visit their website at www.forestprecisioneng.com. They also have a stunning executive lounge in the Ibrox main stand. And for more information on that, email the club at hospitality@rangers.co.uk. Right, now to bring in my guests. Joining me tonight is Grant. Grant, how's things?
Yeah, good mate. What a weekend day. Sun's been out, beers flowing, barbecues out, Rangers down and out. No great, was it?
No, not at all. We'll get into that. Also joining tonight is Alex Anderson. Alex, how you doing?
Back in March 2016, my mother-in-law died really suddenly, and it was the worst thing that ever happened to me, and because I couldn't do anything to help my wife and all that. My mother-in-law and my father-in-law, originally from the West Coast, the two of them, but they moved through to the East Coast years ago. He's a farmer, spent all his time on the land, didn't have time to go to the football, but he had Rangers sympathies. My wife obviously grew up with Rangers sympathies. My mother-in-law, Rangers sympathies, but they had another daughter who just went with the local stuff, and she went to see Hibs for a couple of seasons when she was younger, and they kind of packed it in and that, and later on she married a guy, a Hibs supporter. They've had a kid. My wife was not interested in having kids, so we absolutely loved my nephew. He grew up to be a wee hibby as well. He was about 6 years old at this time, and he was going about the house. We had to go through all the time. My father-in-law was lacking kind of mobility. He just turned 80 like the day after he'd lost his wife, and so my wife and I were having to drop everything just through the East Coast all the time, helping out my sister. An absolute nightmare. And eventually it was like go to the football, because my father-in-law wants to hear these stories about the football. He wants you to go to the football, Alec, and to come back and just tell him stuff to cheer him up, just visceral stories about being at Ibrox and all that. So I was allowed to go and see that semi-final against Celtic at Hampden, and on the Friday before that was my mother-in-law's funeral, and my brother-in-law and I are having a wee drink, and I said to him, see, the next day was the semi-final, Hibs against Dundee United, and I said, see, if Hibs win tomorrow, they're going to win the cup, because we're going to beat Celtic on Sunday, and we only need to beat Celtic. It doesn't actually matter about us winning the Scottish Cup. We just need to beat Celtic, a marquee win against Celtic. We're near the league above us to go into next season back in the top flight, and Hibs, my wee nephew wants to see Hibs win the Scottish Cup for the first time in 114 years, so went to that. That's exactly how it happened. Really emotional weekend. And I thought my mother-in-law will be looking down, wanting our grandson to get Hibs winning the Scottish Cup, and wanting the other side of the family, our other daughter and her husband, to have Rangers having a good result against Celtic. And this was all working out absolutely fantastic. And I went along to the Scottish Cup final as well, of course, against Hibs. And even though part of me was almost wanting Hibs to win for my wee nephew, we got to the stage where we went 2-1 up, and I nearly fainted because I wanted Rangers to win it so badly. But final whistle goes, and you know what happened then, and I couldn't go in the park. I couldn't go and fight him, even though I wanted to. They're goading you and that, because that's the last thing my wife was needing at the time. That was me going in the park and getting myself arrested, making a fool of myself on national television, getting involved with the police and stuff like that. So I just had to sit there, and I watched Hibs lifting the cup for my wee nephew, and I got a text from my brother-in-law, who I'd never got in his face about the football. I was always keen to ask him about Hibs. He never went to football. Yeah, beauty, get it when you, Hibs have won the cup. How's it feel and all that? Relationship with my sister-in-law, my brother-in-law kind of changed at that point in time, but obviously didn't want to follow with them and stuff like that. It was really, really bad. I started hating Hibs at that point in time, because I actually hated them. I hated Hibs more than Celtic for a good couple of years. Don't really care about them now. And then my wife and I, the first chance we got for a holiday was we went over to Copenhagen. And if you're grieving, Copenhagen is sometimes a beautiful place, and we went to Tivoli Gardens and all that. And it was Air, that French group, and did Sexy Boy. They were on. That was part of the deal, the ticket to get in there. And it was a beautiful night. It was really sad, but it was also good to kind of chill out a bit and all that. And we're kind of trying to get back to normal. And then we're in the airport coming back to Copenhagen after one of the most emotional but needed holidays of my entire life, thinking everything's going to be okay. We'll never make up for the fact my mother-in-law's not here anymore. It's just something you have to live with, but everything's going to be all right. And we're in the airport, and the flight's back to Edinburgh, and the wee airport in Copenhagen's not very big, and there's a glass kind of wall partition where the folk are coming in. You can see the flight coming in, and you're waiting to get on the flight, and it was delayed. We had to wait for the flight to empty, the plane to come in. And I thought, I can see a green and white top. I can see another green and white top. And it was Hibs. I forgot, because they'd won the Scottish Cup. They'd got the All Cup Winners' Cup spot. They're in the Europa League. They're all coming off this plane. Fucking massive Hibs support right in my face just at the end of this holiday. And I was having to go into that plane and sit in their smelly seats that they'd just left. And it was just the final boot in the buzz. The bad thing had happened. There was nothing we could do about it. You know, my mum-in-law wasn't coming back, just the same as the league title is over. We can't do anything about that. But you're looking forward to, in that case, I was looking forward to the next season. We're going to be back in the top flight, Rangers, and just right now we're looking forward to the Scottish Cup final next week, a chance to redeem ourselves. But just right at that minute, when you try to get a grip on it, smacking the coupon, a boot in the balls, and yesterday to have that equaliser for 2-up down, for 2-0 up, to have an equaliser in the 95th minute with the very last kick of the ball of that league season was exactly how I felt that day in Copenhagen against Hibs. So apart from that, mate, I'm absolutely fine. Yourself?
I mean, I can't top that. I'll just say I'm stunned and leave it there. I don't know if I'm able to top that.
Normal folk would just say they're scunnered, but I need to explain just how scunnered I was. So that's me for the night. Just use guys fire ahead. Good night.
No worries. Yeah, we'll talk a bit about the game. There's not very much point getting into in detail. It felt a bit like a training pre-season game at times. There was very little at stake. But the thing that stood out to me is over the whole 90 minutes, we pretty much saw the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah, the kind of game that kind of summed up our season, to be honest with you, Brian. You know, I don't think we actually played that badly. We were knocking the ball about pretty well. And I was watching Hearts TV because my stream wasn't working properly, so it was cutting in and out. So maybe that was for the best. But no, I don't think we did actually that badly. Yeah, it summed up our season. We're right through. Dessers has a chance to put us 1-0 up, and he hits the keeper. I don't know how he hits the keeper. It was actually hard to hit the keeper and hit the back of the net. And then 5 minutes later, Lauren Shankland's right through, and you know fine well when he's running through where the ball's going, right in the back of the net. Great finish, and that's us, usual 1-0 down and chasing the game. And it's happened so many times the last, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 weeks now, going behind, trying to chase our tails. And yeah, it just kind of summed up our season. We missed loads of chances again yesterday. Same old story, can't score up the top, can't keep them out at the back. Yeah, just really, really poor. That's the difference. But when you have a guy like that up top that takes his chances when he gets them, it was so easy for him. To be fair, Cantwell loses the ball in the middle of the park, and it's one pass, and the defence is split, and he's through. It's just so easy. Like, we've seen it so many times, and even in the second half, he had another one as well. It was a one pass, and he was right through, and he took a bad touch, and it went through to Jack Butland. Thankfully, that would have been another goal. But just we're so poor at the back. Like, it's been like that for the last, I don't know, 2 months now. Down both flanks, and our I know the two centre halves have been changed a lot, but there's just no fight there. And we're getting beat down the sides. Tavernier's getting beat down the sides again, and the ball's coming across, and our other fullbacks no covering, and he's knocking the ball in the net. It's so bad defensively. So it summed up our season, to be honest with you, Brian, and I'm kind of glad that the league campaign's came to an end, and just have to look forward to the cup final next week.
Yeah, Alec, was that the perfect microcosm of our season? It felt like the squad was rolling out the not so greatest hits all in the one game.
I know, it was unbelievable, wasn't it? Apart from the fact that we started reasonably well for the first half hour yesterday. You know, we're kind of quite tidy, putting a few passes together, looking quite intricate in attack. I thought Scott Wright actually played reasonably well in that first half, and Cantwell was doing a few kind of flicks and all that. It wasn't too bad. So I suppose the start of the season, we get beat by Kilmarnock day one at Rugby Park. It was pretty awful for the word go. But once you get to the fact that, as Grant's saying, we go a goal behind, that feels like that day at Rugby Park, and just losing to Celtic at Ibrox when they seem to be a wee bit on the ropes with a real chance, and Beale set us up really strangely, and then next thing we're getting tanked at home by Aberdeen, and it's all over. The thing that really made it a perfect kind of analogy or metaphor for the season as a whole was the fact that you get your hopes built up. You're not that bothered. When Clermont arrived in October, I'm thinking, okay, big man, I'm not expecting miracles here. I'm not thinking we're going to win the league. Just steady the ship. So we got in the second half and we score 3 goals in about 20 minutes, and that's us. We look like we're going to run away with the game. You get, I actually got myself quite excited. Think this is a good response. The players are looking good. We're going to finish this off on a high, and then go into the Scottish Cup final next week. With a bit of a buzz, a tiny wee buzz about us, and that's a bit like the season itself. We got our hopes raised under Clement. Got to the point it looked like the league was ours to throw away, but we did throw it away just the same as yesterday. We threw the game away. So I think it was a perfect microcosm. And again, like we'll come on to discuss this, even in that, I don't think it's all on Clement, which is a perfect microcosm, a perfect comparison with the season as a whole. That's just the players he's got, the situation he's inherited, and it all came to bear yesterday. I think it all came to pass yesterday. I think Craig had mentioned in the WhatsApp group, and I know what gets mentioned in the Gersnet WhatsApp group stays in the Gersnet WhatsApp group, but I don't want to take the credit away from him for coming up with the amount of times we've lost these really late equalisers. He's talking about end of season games. It's become a thing. But we've been doing this ever since 2012. You know what I mean? It just seems to be you're obviously really guilty. You'll be feeling really guilty after what you said about the, hoping it was going to be the 5 each game with Hibs. Again, I'm sure that's what you said in Friday night's pod,
Yeah, that's what I predicted.
You wanted a 6-5, but same thing, and I remember even when we were in League Two, or the third tier of Scottish football, and we've been through the whole season unbeaten in the league, but the first time we actually dropped any points, it was a last minute goal by, was it Stranraer, I think, Stenhouse, one of the Stiz anyway, and like Boxing Day, I was at that one, getting set up to go for a drink with my mates after it, and it was just a total downer. And we just, young boys burn, we've qualified for the next round, we're getting out the group, but we're in top place, and then we concede a last minute equaliser to them, Motherwell, and when Gerrard just started that mad 3 each game, they score with the last kick of the ball. It just seems to be one of the things where, if yesterday had been it's 1 each, it's 2 each, we go 3-2 up with 20 minutes to go and Hearts equalise with quarter of an hour to go, and then we just kind of play it out, that'd have been perfectly acceptable end of season stuff, but it was adding insult to injury. A total smack in the face, I thought, the way we ended that yesterday. I've got various psychological reasons for taking it so badly, but it was the season in microcosm, mate. You're correct.
Yeah, definitely. But one of the players I wanted to touch on was young Robbie Fraser. First start for him yesterday. How did you think he performed? And could he potentially, as backup left back next season, save us a bit of money to spend on other areas of the squad?
Yeah, well, I didn't really know much about him, to be honest, Brian. I know he was a B team captain for a bit, 21-year-old, but he looked good when he came on midweek against Dundee at home. Yesterday, he was okay. I think he got a tough time with that boy. It was Oda. He gave him quite a tough time in the first half an hour, 45 minutes. He got by him a few times, but no, listen, he's only 21. He looked decent going forward. So yeah, he is one that could definitely play back up the next year, but who's he going to be playing back up to? Are we going to have Yilmaz next year? Are we going to go back in for the Brazilian boy Jeffrey? So yeah, there's a lot to think about at left back. We don't know what's going to happen with Yilmaz as well. Is he going to stay? But yeah, I don't see why he couldn't step up and be back up in there. This is what we kind of really want. We want young guys in the academy be able to step into the team when we don't have our first choice. So yeah, we definitely need to use that more often. And yeah, as you said, it will definitely save us money. We need to spend money elsewhere on the pitch. We need to improve other positions. They're more important than left back, to be honest with you. So yeah, I would like to see him stay in there and play back up to either Yilmaz, Jeffrey, whoever's going to be at left back next season, save us a bit of cash.
And I'd like to see the kind of youngsters fulfilling that role of potentially playing back up to some of the positions, just to try and see if we can get something out of the academy at all, to be honest. Now, Alex, getting into the game, the players would have known that we're pretty much playing for a place in next week's final. The first player I want to touch on is Ross McCausland, a goal in each of his last 2 appearances. Do you think he's done enough to earn a spot in next week's starting lineup?
Yes, yesterday I thought he did, and I think, particularly as the manager mentioned in his post-match press at the Tynecastle yesterday, he's getting back to the fitness he had before he was kicked off the park. But it was at Dan Casey, that Motherwell player, and that defeat to Motherwell back in March. That's probably the strangest decision for me the whole season. VAR decision, those kind of stuff. It was an absolutely brutal tackle, put him out of the game. And I thought if nothing else, even if he doesn't play next week, Ross McCausland, it was a lovely moment for him, because that's obviously where he makes his Rangers debut 2 years ago, almost to the week, if you like, against Hearts at Tynecastle. When we were going on to the Scottish Cup final the following weekend again, but this time we had a European final in between times, and we played a lot of the young boys that day. I think Ross McCausland come on for the last half hour that day. I think that was his first time playing for the first team. And there he was yesterday, easily our man of the match. I think everybody's agreed he's just the man of the match in general yesterday, better than any Hearts player in the park. I thought his attitude was absolutely perfect. His application was absolutely perfect. And I think, you kind of, it was 2 each when Robbie Fraser came on the other night against Dundee. We win the game 5-2. So, enough said. Robbie Fraser maybe had a few wee mistakes yesterday, a few moments where you could see he's got a lot to learn in terms of first team football, a long way to go. But I think with Ross McCausland, he has got the quality as well. I don't think he's by any means perfect physical attributes. I think he needs more pace, what have you. But I just think compared to some of his teammates, particularly his effort yesterday, what he does when he sets up, Grant was talking about one of the chances Dessers missed straight away. It's Ross McCausland just pouncing on any dilly-dallying whatsoever by the Hearts defence. And I was sitting, that was my first time ever yesterday on a VPN. I didn't even be able to work out how to do that. So I was watching it on Rangers TV in my kitchen. And when he scored the goal, I was actually standing up, like applauding. I'm clapping the screen and on my Todd, because it was just such a lovely goal. And I was so happy for him. And he thoroughly deserved it. But I don't know. I don't know if we're looking at maybe Tav's going to need more protection. We'll have to chat about Sterling, obviously. We'll particularly to chat about where he's going to go, when we're previewing the final next week. But I would like to see Ross McCausland getting his start against Celtic, because you just know he's going to apply himself. I think Dundee game the other night, if you're being hypercritical, you can maybe say, has he not been tight enough? The 2 goals Dundee scored, they come down that side, but Tav should be taking the blame for that. Ross McCausland's just doing what he can. I think, does he give me the foul for the second goal, and he maybe doesn't get tight enough to his man? It's the same as the Dundee left back that causes both their goals on Tuesday night. I think maybe Ross McCausland could have done slightly better than them, but certainly not totally to blame. And he comes back straight away and he scores a goal before half time in that game, as you say. But yesterday, I think he's back to full fitness as well, and I just, he deserves it. I was watching, we're talking about, Grant's talking about Robbie Fraser there, seeing him playing for the B team. I went to all the UEFA Youth League games up at Firhill before I then went to see Rangers at Ibrox getting stuffed in the Champions League, last season. And Ross McCausland were a goal down and a man down to Ajax. Bailey Rice gets himself sent off at were a goal down, and he goes and he scores 2 goals, and we're briefly winning the game 2-1, end up getting tanked by the Ajax youth team. But he's just a fighter. He gives it his all, and he's got the talent to back that up. We could all be fighters. You've got to have the talent as well, but I think he's got enough talent in there, enough application, and he's getting to stage he's got enough experience as well. So I would have Ross McCausland starting next week, mate, yeah.
The thing is, Brian, as well, people forget how young he is. Do you know what I mean? This is his first full season at Rangers, and it's 21, 22 even. People forget how young he is, and he came on leaps and bounds this season. He takes his man on all the time. He's very direct. You can't label that. He's direct. He closes down. So I don't see why he doesn't start next week. He's adding goals to his game now. That was a cracking finish on his bad side as well. Oh, great finish. He couldn't put it anywhere else. Absolutely perfect. So I don't see why he doesn't get a start against Celtic. We'll come on to the Sterling chat later on. We'll discuss that later on. But yeah, I don't see why he doesn't start. 2 goals, 2 games. Aye. Yeah, for me.
Yeah, I think the thing with McCausland for me is you can actually see the development in him since he first came on as a sub against St Mirren. I think he came on for Zach Lovelows in that game with Stephen Davis as manager. But you can actually see the development in his game, which is really good to see. So hopefully that continues. And Grant, another player in a kind of similar boat, I guess, to McCausland is also scored a goal in each of his last 2 games. But given that he's not started the last 2 Old Firm games, and for me, he often fails to turn up in the big occasion, has he earned his opportunity next week?
Well, personally, I like Todd Cantwell. I think he's one of our better players when he's on form, and he's hitting form at the right time, hopefully for us. He's the kind of guy that can produce magic out of nothing. He can see a pass, he can play that pass that probably nobody else in our squad can do. So I would quite like to see him in there. But yes, I know he's been left out of the Old Firm games before, but look how they've ended. Look at our midfield. with Lawrence in there. Lawrence offered absolutely nothing the last time he was in there, with John Lundstrom offering nothing. So I would like to see him in there. I think he gives you legs. He works hard. And he's got an eye for goal as well. He scored 2 in the last couple of games as well. The problem in the big games is, the Old Firm games anyway, we seem to get overrun in the middle of the park every single time we play them. And Cantwell's obviously playing advanced for number 10, if you like. So I think he kind of been hung out to dry a wee bit in these games. I know he's been pushed out wide right as well in the European game, and Clement wasn't happy with him, no sticking out there. But for me, on his day, he's one of our better players, and he makes things happen. I know he loses the rag a wee bit as well, to be honest with you. But listen, we all would in these kind of fixtures. But for me, I would play him. We've tried different combinations in the middle of the park against Celtic 4 times this season, different guys. So it'll be interesting to see who we play. Does Raskin sit in there with Diamondi, with Cantwell advanced? Does Lundstrom come back in? I hope not. But there's loads of things. Does Sterling go in there as well? Like, we just don't know what team he's going to pick. But for me, I would try something different and have Cantwell in there just to give you the legs and try and stop the Celtic midfield from playing, because that's where they're dangerous. The midfield three for Celtic are dangerous. They're top quality players, and we need to have our best players in the park for me.
Yeah, Alex, Grant's mentioned Raskin there. Now, with Lundstrom being suspended, he's obviously started the last 2. It's kind of his best run that he's had in the team for a good few months. How do you think he's performed, and do you think he'll retain his place for next week?
I don't think he performed that well, Brian. I don't know. I could be. The past few games, he's been unfortunate, Raskin. The 2 games he's come back for is when we've had so much to chew over. We've been mulling over the defeat at Parkhead when he's playing against Dundee, and then we're mulling over the fact yesterday that we'd lost the league. That's it. That game yesterday, it was really strange, a really difficult one to judge, because you're kind of looking for 2 things. It's like a kind of horror movie, kind of human centipede type thing. You're stapling together. It's like a kind of pre-season friendly vibe, and but also it's a big warm up for next week. And I think when we're looking at the players or the squad going to give us a response, you now know Celtic are officially champions. First time we've seen you since you officially lost the league. What's the response to that? Are you going to play for pride, play for the jersey? But also, we're looking to see what you're going to do. Are you focused on the cup final next week? And that amounts to the same thing. You're looking for them to be intense. But you know, and the manager was saying this in his presser afterwards as well, that a lot of players have been rested. A lot of guys have been, they're place fillers. So is Raskin being told, you're just place filler for Lundstrom? He'll be getting back into the cup final squad. Maybe that's affecting the amount of effort he's given. I don't know, but my head's kind of all over the place. Same way with Cantwell as well. Evan Grant saying absolutely spot on about Cantwell. I'm confused about him. I don't know if he's kind of baroque reactions to everything are too much self-consciousness, or they're the kind of spiky, edgy stuff that we actually need at a time like this. I think the chief role when we play Celtic these days seems to be to stop our 10 is not so much creative as destructive. Lawrence couldn't do it, didn't have the fitness. And I think the game at Christmas time, or New Year, Cantwell couldn't do it either. Todd Cantwell's played a couple of games now. He's been really good offensively, so you're hoping maybe he can take that into the game next week. But I don't know if we're going to look at... I think Diomande has played in the 10 position for us, or a more advanced... I personally would have Lundstrom, Diomande and Sterling, hopefully, in midfield beside Lundstrom. And the sitting 2, if you like, and have Diomande to go rush about and do that crushing job on McGregor and just stop them at source. It seems to be the manager's main tactic, Clement's main tactic, going by the way we played them at Parkhead. I don't think, I didn't see anything from Raskin to say that he was going to come back, or even particularly looked like he was ready to come back. A couple of nice touches. There was a lot of space in midfield at times yesterday. It's quite an extended game, quite an expansive game at times. It's total end of season stuff, but I didn't really see enough from him, mate. I have to be honest with you. And I don't know if it's just a lack of fitness. His injury's been worse than we realise, and it's taken him a while to get back, or he's just no fancying it. Maybe he knows he's at the door, he's going to go back to Belgium or whatever. I really don't know, but judging his last 2 performances, I didn't see enough. But I don't know also what the situation is with John Lundstrom, because you're talking about Raskin no playing next week. That means, for me, John Lundstrom would, but maybe John Lundstrom's complete. I know he didn't get a touch in the Old Firm game or whatever until he put it in his own net and got himself sent off, but he was getting dogs abuse before that game. He was getting told by the whole range of social media, you're shite, you're going to cost us this game, and he kind of did, almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy. So I don't know if his head's completely gone all together. The week before that, he's been involved in three goals, set up 2 goals, and got the command-up player sent off. He was absolutely fantastic. Zero praise for that. Everybody tell him, you're crap, you're going to cost us it next week. So I don't know if that's just got to him altogether, and he does just want to go to Trabzonspor or whatever. But if I had my choice, it wouldn't be Raskin for me next week.
Brian, I think it's quite telling that Raskin's Belgian and Clement's Belgian. They normally stick together, these kind of guys, don't they? And he's not playing them, so there's something right there, is there? For me.
Yeah. Scored in his first game as well, Grant. Scored.
That's true, aye.
Someone's first game, and you think that's great, right in there with the new manager, same country, the same as yourself, thinking this is going to work fantastic.
Aye.
Just hasn't happened.
Yeah, he does seem to not trust Raskin, to be honest. There's been times when he's not even made the squad, surprisingly. Grant, Alex mentioned he would have Sterling in midfield next week there. Now, I was actually surprised when Sterling came on. He came on at centre-back. Do you think that was with next week in mind in case Balogun doesn't make it?
Do you know what? I didn't even notice that at the time because my stream cut out at this point. It was just when you mentioned it. I watched it. I know. I watched it in Sports Scene. It's a strange one. I don't know. As Alex said, I would very like to see Sterling in the middle of the park because he just gives you legs. He's just a powerhouse in there. I think he's wasted at right wing or left wing or centre back. I think he's wasted in there. You need these powerful guys with legs in the middle of the park for me. Yeah, it was strange for him to come on at centre half. I don't know what the thinking was behind that. Was Ben Davies picking up a knock? We just try to get him off for next week. I don't know. It was a very strange shout for me. Is Balogun going to make it for next week? I just don't know. I don't know, mate. It's just a total conundrum. But yeah, I would hate to see Sterling wasted at centre back. I really would. For the Celtic game, I would want to see him in the middle of the park, as Alex said, just for his drive. It just gives you something. I don't know. He's just an absolute powerhouse in there. And I'd be quite happy with Lundstrom with Sterling and Diamandi. I even thought of actually putting him further forward. There's choices there, so I'd be interested to see what Clement does at the weekend. But Sterling has to play in the middle for me.
Yeah, just hopefully try something different in that midfield than what we've seen in the last 2 Old Firm games. Now, before we go on to discuss the season as a whole, let me give a shout out to our friends over at Football Prizes. They're currently running a competition to win a Brian Laudrup signed and framed boot. For more information on how to enter, please visit footballprizes.co.uk/product/Laudrup-3. Now, Alex, rather than talk about the season as a whole, I'm tempted to just ask you to regale us with facts about Brian Laudrup, but sadly, we need to...
It's a sign. It's a sign, Brian. I mean, Brian Laudrup boot, right? We played the Jambos yesterday, Scottish Cup final next Saturday. The Laudrup final. It's 1996 all over it. We're going to beat them 5-1 next week. That's what's going to happen. When Brian Laudrup, in that game, Jury scores the hat-trick, and Brian Laudrup scores 2. But Jury set up the 2 for Laudrup. The last touch, it was Jury to Laudrup, Laudrup to Jury, all 5 goals in that game. I don't want to talk about this season either.
Well, if that's an omen, then maybe it'll be the Cantwell final next week and Dessers will score a hat-trick.
Excellent,
Just
I'll take that.
Putting that out there. I suppose we need to kind of talk about the season as a whole. Now, I'm going to kind of talk about it from when Clement came in. Now, from having the league in our own hands in February, how have we managed to find ourselves 8 points behind that?
Injuries. I'm going to go injuries. I put a tweet out the other day to my restricted audience on Twitter. I'm not saying that because I want everybody to pile out my Twitter account. I'm just, sometimes I just need to get it out of my system. If it's 2 o'clock in the morning, you can't get to sleep because you're pure raging because Celtic have just won the league, and you just need to say something. But it's like everybody, and you make the mistake of going on Rangers Twitter, and everybody, you notice how it's always got to be one thing, and it's always tell you. I said, Tav is a loser. That's a big one. The other one, injuries. The other one, Clement's a fraud. The board. Nobody puts them all together and goes, these things are quite complex. There's lots of different reasons. They all add together. It's always got to be a one kind of solution. And I'm laughing at other folk doing that while I'm going to be going, it's definitely injuries. Definitely injuries. The other one was mentality. It's the mentality. That was the other one. And I think physicality definitely affects your mentality. But Look, one thing I was thinking about the other day, we played 9 more games in Celtic this season. This is an ongoing thing. I think it's all short-term, medium-term and long-term reasons. I'm not going to do the whole 2012 thing, but there's definitely an undertow there. It's going to be another 10 years, I think, before we're infrastructurally on the same kind of solid footing as Celtic again. And that's a big thing. You're a bit desperate all the time. You're kind of lunging forward all the time, clutching at stuff to try and get the money in, getting through 4 rounds and qualifying in Europe and that kind of thing under Gerrard, the first few seasons he was in charge. And sometimes you get to a European final, sometimes you go the whole season unbeaten and set a new British defensive record. Sometimes you end up making a complete arse yourself in various games. But having absolute honking seasons. I think there's an undertow for 2012, which means we're constantly trying to catch up in a kind of financial terms. But I think medium term, it's Auchenhowie. The manager keeps diagnosing a problem, some sort of problem. Maybe not Auchenhowie, but use that as a catch-all term for the medical situation, for the number of injuries. I think the previous manager, I think Michael Beale, takes a lot of responsibility for stuff that's going on this season. He seems to have set them back. We had a terrible pre-season, and I remember going to see us against Olympiacos, against Hamburg in these pre-season friendlies, and thinking, no, I know it's just pre-season, but they just don't seem to have any bite. They don't even look as if they're knackered from your favourite, Brian, running so hard that they're puking their guts up. It just looks like they're not very sharp. They look like they're very energetic at all. And I think we've also, and we have to but maybe talk about this later on, but in terms of the signing policy, I think we were all quite happy last summer, we forget, even though it's just last summer, to give Beale his own heads, let him, because Postecoglou was doing the same thing. He's a de facto director of football operations. Let him just sign his own players, basically. And it's left us with a squad that's absolutely bereft. I think you could see in Cyril Dessers, who, by the way, I like Cyril. I think he's cracking, and he definitely needs to start next week. He will score goals you don't expect it, and he'll miss chances you don't expect him to miss. But I think in his person, you see the best we can manage, the best we can get out of bad signings, bad fits, square pegs for round holes, thanks to Michael Beale. And then I think we've got in a good manager. I've still got faith that it's a good manager we have in Clement, but he's wanted the players to hit this. He's talked about it himself. He wants to hit this level of intensity. And if they don't have the pre-season in them, they're going to get burnout. And that's what's been happening to him. He mentioned his presser on Friday, saying how players, for the first time in his career, he couldn't give players a week after they'd recovered from injury to let them properly recover. He had to put them straight back in after a few days. As soon as the doctor says, he's good to go, he's basically putting them back on the park straight away. First team competitive football, as somebody said he'd never did before, because it's been a crisis, the injuries, and I think that's definitely affected. So things like, see the 2 postponements at Dens, our kind of fragile momentum, with everything that happened to us already that season, I think when they arrived and how they arrived really cost us. We end up drawing that game, and I think that was massive. We had the momentum, the 3-each draw with Celtic. We were telling ourselves, great comeback, focusing on a great comeback in the second half. If we'd gone to Dens Park on the Wednesday night, we could have made that concrete. If we'd taken it out on them, feeding off the buzz we'd got for that second half. I think having the whole week to think about it, by the time we got up to Dingwall, it was like, we chucked it against Celtic. We gave them a 2-goal lead. We should have won that game, and Diamandi had an injury, and that was one injury too many. But you've also got the idea that we should have signed Lawrence Shankland. I think that's kind of pie in the sky stuff. But should we have got another out-and-out goal scorer in January? But we looked absolutely fantastic in February, the whole of February. So we can't say we had a big problem at that time with the January signings. But I think there's various problems, but the biggest problem for me this season has been injuries, Brian, because the team that was running away with looking fantastic in February, come March, you've lost Cortez. You're already, get Sima out the game, and he'd been brilliant for us. And then you lose Diamandi as well, and next thing we've got Connor Goldson. We're wondering if Balogun's going to be fit. It's just the reason we brought on Sterling at centre half yesterday was to make sure we could get Ben Davies off the park, and protect him, because we have to make sure we get minutes in his legs, but also make sure he doesn't get injured, because he's only played, he's only had 2 starts since September or something. So for me, the biggest factor overall is injuries, but I think it's been compounded by Michael Beale giving him a terrible pre-season.
Yeah, the managers rightly earned plenty of praise since he came in, he got us into the position where we were in a position for a league title fight, and let's not forget he delivered a trophy. But how much of this collapse that we've seen over the last 2 months lies with the manager versus the squad for you?
It's a difficult one, mate. Alex and over there, we've had so many injuries, like nothing that I've probably ever seen, to be honest with you. As you said, we've been rushing Seema back, we've been rushing Yilmaz back just to get guys in the park. I think Clement, when he first came in, we obviously get the bounce, we start picking up results, and Alex absolutely spot on there. The 3-3 Old Firm game at Ibrox, we all got into that thinking, if we win this, we've got a right good chance of winning this league. That was a turning point for me. For Tavernier to do that in 22 seconds, you've seen the heads going down. And then we gave him another goal. So that, for me, that was a day that I remember at the end, Clement was saying, it's a moral victory and all that. I was distraught. That was a day that I thought we could have won the league. If we go and win that, get the 3 points, the mentality changes. We go to Ross County, we win. We don't lose. We go to Dens Park, we don't draw. We go and get the win. It shifted for me that day. And even going to Ibrox the next couple of weeks, you could feel it. People knew we'd lost a big chance to go ahead there, and that was a turning point for me. Clement, for me, I do like him. I want him to get time. I think he's made some dodgy decisions, maybe substitutions and team selections at times, which I've questioned. But he's been dealt a terrible hand with injuries. Let's be honest. I mean, his signings in January, Cortez, he's out for this season. He's not Danilo. He's not Seema. He's not Yilmaz. He's not Golson. He's not Balogun. He's not Suter. I mean, it's just the list goes on. Raskin's another one. We've just had a terrible time with injuries, and I definitely think that is what's caused. We can only ask these guys to go to the well so many times. But January for me, we spent reportedly 2.5 million on Silva. We should have spent that money on Lawrence Shankland. We're crying out for a goal scorer for me. We could have easily paid the 2.5 million and then more in the summer, done a kind of staged payment like we did with Diamondi, pay the extra in the summer, whatever. Because I think you're the one as a league, to be honest with you. We were lacking up front, and we all said it at the time. So I think that was a bit. I don't know if that was Clement or was that Nils Coppin. We don't know. But I thought at the time when Silva signed, we all said, I mean, this guy's not really done much. Yeah, he came with a big price tag, but I thought it was a bit of a strange one at the time. But no, I'm all for Clement. We need to back him in the summer. Give him the money to strengthen the squad, and then go from there. But I've seen enough from that we should back him. We've got to back him. We can't just keep sacking managers and paying them off and recycling the squad again. We can't do it. We can't afford to do it.
Yeah, Alex Grant's mentioned the summer there, but to me this all feels a bit too similar to this time last year. We're kind of saying things will improve.
You're saying I'm not saying
his own players in, and he's got a proper pre-season. What do we need to do to kind of do better this summer so that we're not back in this position again this time next year?
Yeah, bang on, mate. That's the most brutal thing. That is the most brutal thing. It's just sitting here going, catch it. It was you. I think you tweeted it or something. I heard you saying it first, Brian, and I was just like, he's right. I don't want him to be, but he's totally right. That total, we're in exactly the same situation. He's going to be. I'm sitting here going, I have faith in Clement. I think he's going to be good. I was saying the same thing with Beale last season. All right, he hasn't been able to beat Celtic, but last season, and going beyond just we need to back this manager. I'd heard all these rumours or whatever. I picked it all up wrong. I've had pals talking to me saying, no, that wasn't the case at all. That Van Bronckhorst hadn't given the players a proper pre-season, in 2021, 2022. So I was like, this is going to be great. Beale is going to get them totally sorted this summer. And we're losing the 2 games at Hampden against Celtic. I'm sitting at good seats for both 3 games. I'm up high and I'm watching going, the only difference here is they're sharper than us. The only difference is they've had a better pre-season, right? Once we get the pre-season, absolutely, it's going to be great. And we went backwards. So we're slower this season under Beale. So I'm sitting here going, Clement knows there's a problem with the injuries. He knows there's a problem with the health of the players. He's going to get that sorted. He's going to get that sorted out. We've got to back him. Do we need Grant? I'm getting so desperate, mate. Let's just have something to talk about. Drop the old grenade. I think we do need to sack a manager. We can't have a manager lasting a year because Gerrard won us a trophy. We punt him. Right? We get Gio in. He wins us the Scottish Cup. Punt him. Clement's got his League Cup. I think maybe we've got to do the old Chelsea thing. Just keep recycling it. Don't let it get to a year. Clement pumped Celtic 5-0. Sorry, feel like that's your, that's your 11 months up, mate. We're going to have to sack you, get somebody else in because we want to win something this season. I don't know. If we could win this Scottish Cup, what a difference it would make. I know it feels terrible just now. We've chucked the league. A lot of Rangers supporters are just like, almost like, what's the point of the Scottish Cup final? We chucked the league. That's the main thing. This man's got us into a position where we could chuck the league. That's sometimes what happens. I always think about it in terms of, you're talking at the beginning of this pod about microcosms, a game being a microcosm of a season. See, this season when we played Benfica, but during Gerrard's the 2020-2021 season, the 55 season, we played Benfica twice in the Europa League, and we drew 3 each. If somebody said to you, you're going to draw 3 each in the Stadium of Light with Benfica, I'd be like, I'll take it. Aye, give us that. But what we do is, we're 3-1 up and they're down to 10 men. And I'm thinking, we're going to beat Benfica in the Stadium of Light. This is one of the most majestic performances, historic. I'm loving this. And that thing again, Darwin fucking Núñez, who can't hit a fucking coo's arse with a banjo in England, he's scoring in the very last seconds against us because this is how we have to chuck it. But it's like, there you go. You said you'd be happy with a point. That's how it happens. Sometimes you've got to lunge forward and get too much to end up getting the base result you were ready to settle for. And I think maybe that's what's happened this season. We told ourselves in so many ways, or we've got to kind of maybe try and console ourselves knowing that at the time Bale left, we were a disaster. It looked an absolute nightmare. And you're just saying, if we actually could mount a challenge for the league title this season, it'd be a miracle, considering we've just got this guy in October and the place is a mess. And he's done that. But it's all, what the Rangers support's like? Like as soon as you get a sniff at it in, you better win it or you're sacked. So I think he has managed to actually mount a challenge. If he could win this Scottish Cup, we're winning 2 trophies in the same season for the first time since Walter. It would be that would be major. And I think I mentioned this yesterday in a brutal. Really sorry to end my post-match reaction pod yesterday. It was absolutely brutal. Went on for ages and ages and ages. Just knackered and done in with the whole thing. But I think we're actually getting to Hampden a lot more often than we realise. Celtic have only won 1 game over 90 minutes, and they haven't won a single game over 90 minutes at Hampden this season. We've won 3. They went to extra time and penalties against Aberdeen. They didn't even get to the League Cup quarter final. I think it's going to cost us because I say we've had to play 4 extra games in Europe this season. We've ended up playing 3 more games in the League Cup than Celtic. We got further in Celtic in Europe. We're playing 2 games in the post-Christmas in Europe as well. Massive games against Benfica. And you get a squad that's fallen to bits. Celtic again just crapping out of Europe and just concentrating in the league just so they can get their Champions League money on our coin, on the coefficient we built up for them. It's hard to catch up with that. It kind of becomes a cyclical thing because again, next season, we're going to have to, the manager's already said, we're going to have to get into Europe and have a lot of good signings, early doors, ready to go to get through 2 rounds of European football to get us in the Champions League. So, but I think he looks the business to me, and I would definitely be keeping Clement and hoping for the first time in 3 years we've got a manager who lasts more than a year. What was the question?
I'll agree with you on that one, Alex.
Losing it.
In terms of next week, just kind of thinking about the game, and obviously Celtic were playing again. It kind of feels like we need a moment of beating Celtic for the belief of this squad going into next season. It's almost like, to me, it reminds me a bit of that game, Gerrard's first victory against Celtic at Ibrox, where, right, okay, that game didn't really mean much in the grand scheme of the season, but it was a moment. It was, we'll finally beat them. We've finally got that monkey off our back. So, you think a win next season's vital going into a win next week is vital going into next season, as much as the trophy itself?
Yeah, definitely. They've beat us, 3 times out of 4 this season, taking 10 points out of 12. We definitely need to go and put a marker down for next season, 100%. Saying that, the Old Firm games, there's not been much in it, to be honest with you. It's been 1-goal victories. Twice at Parkhead, we were down to 10 men both times as well. So I don't think there's much in it, to be honest with you, Brian, between both teams. They've got slightly a bit more quality in the middle of the park. That's the main thing for me. They've got guys in the middle of the park that can score goals and win games, and they've got a striker up top that wins them games as well. That's the difference. You've seen it before, Kyogo scoring against us and winning games. We just don't have that. We don't have that one man that can do that. So, but saying that, I don't see why we can't go and put a performance on unbeaten. I don't think they're that far ahead of us, to be honest with you. So, yeah, I think we have to go next week and just go and put a good performance and head into next season and rip the squad up this summer. They've got to get the recruitment right this year. We've got to get, I know we keep saying it every single year, but we've got to, we don't have to go and spend £30 million. You just got to go and look for players that are decent quality, bring them in, and the recruitment's got to be a lot better. Clement mentioned as well the physicality. Alex mentioned it. Get a better pre-season under our belt so these injuries are not happening. He's mentioned it a good few times now, so there's clearly a problem at Auchenhowie. So yeah, just recruitment, get a better pre-season and see what happens. But yeah, your question, yeah, we need to go and beat them next week and start putting doubt in their mind that we can actually leave one on them.
That's a great point. I keep slipping my mind, believe it or not, that next week is actually a chance to make sure we beat Celtic. Clement gets his first victory in an Old Firm game. You know, because you're thinking Scottish Cup, I'm thinking in terms of trophies and blah, blah, blah. But it's just, as Grant's saying, spot on. In a lot of ways, it's reminded me maybe of the 2002 scenario with McLeish, where he comes in and he won the League Cup. Did it by beating Celtic in the semi-final, but he's kind of steadying the ship that had been sinking a bit under Dick Advocaat, and he comes in and then we win the Scottish Cup final against Celtic, and that really laid the groundwork. You can see that really it peed them off. But we'd been drawn with Celtic under McLeish when he first came in the league. So they weren't getting a result against him. He had kind of got under their skin. And we beat them in the Scottish Cup final, Old Firm Cup final in the following season. It's a treble for Rangers. And that was against Martin O'Neill's Celtic. Absolutely. They had plenty of money, powerful team. I can't help myself thinking about 1998 as well. I know it's Hearts we played in the Scottish Cup final that time, but we just lost the league really late in the season, even later than we've lost it this season. And it's breaking up. The squad's breaking up, and they couldn't raise themselves. You know, they just couldn't raise themselves. They're running on empty, running on fumes. That Rangers team, they just lost it in 10 in a row as well. So I don't know, because I think that's a big factor in next week. And I think Clement was kind of dialing back on it yesterday. His previous two pressers before this game, he was starting to have a pop at the fact, you know, the players weren't good enough. We're talking about, I'm saying that the performance against Dundee at Dens was good and all that. That's him trying to manage the situation, try to keep this team cobbled together, try to give him some sort of sheen of belief because he's not getting anybody else to work with. He doesn't have any other players to work with. I think the moment we actually officially lost the league, it's like he just lost the plot and just couldn't help. Stuff was coming out after the game against Dundee and on Friday's presser before the Hearts game, and he ends up saying we're coming to the end of a cycle, and almost has to check himself at the end of that press conference. But hopefully we can end that cycle on a good note. And it's like players know they're not going to be there next season. I'm not saying they're going to go out and not give a shit in the Scottish Cup final because they're not going to be there next week. Every player wants medals. They want a bit of glory for themselves. But I think if it's a hard game, a difficult game, you just don't have anything left in the legs, knowing that you'll be checking out and you're going, you know, that subliminally, subconsciously, that can have an effect on your performance. I think that's an absolutely massive thing. And you've got so many players who are not going to be there next season, going into that cup final next week. Clement can get them to actually beat a Celtic team who will feel they've got, you know, the sign over us because we can't beat them, as opposed to the fact they never actually give us a doing. I think it's going to be a massive fillip, and it would completely change the atmosphere for us through the summer.
Yeah. Alex, Grant mentioned getting the recruitment right this summer. How important a role do the board have to play in this rebuild? And how crucial a point could this be for their legacy at Rangers?
I mean, obviously the boards, we don't do anything. We don't get anybody signed or whatever like that without the board backing it. Again, going back to what I thought was a really interesting press conference for Clement last week. I thought Tuesdays after the Dundee game and the pre-Hearts presser were really interesting. We saw the manager in a different light. He was taking a different tack altogether. I think you could see that the league was done. And it was changing the way he was talking about things, but he mentioned how when he came in, the board had been really upfront with him about the amount of problems there was with the club. Now, this might have been Clement again trying to say, you know, it's not my fault that we lost the league. You know, there was problems here before. I've done well to get us, you know, to the second last round of fixtures before we lost the league. But he was saying that the board were really, really honest with him. And then he said, but I didn't realise the extent of the problems with the health of the players. So I don't know if it meant that the board didn't know that, or it was like that, but that was one thing they weren't completely honest with him. I don't think the board actually know what's going on in terms of the injuries or whatever. So it seems like he gets on well with them. You know, 50+1 is the model. We really want a situation where Rangers are owned by the fans and run by the fans, but it's, you know, Club 1872 and all that. It's proved impractical so far. There's too much infighting or whatever. Really great. I mean, fantastic. We should definitely keep trying that. It's a great exercise to try and get the more fan representation, if not outright fan ownership. But I think the best we can manage until then is to have Rangers fans owning the club. And I think, you know, John Bennett and whatever, we do have proper Rangers people on the board. James Bisgrove is just, you know, he's a killer. He's just one of these guys who would just, you know, obviously stab his own granny to make, you know, a fiver. He's just focused. I mean, you don't get to work for UEFA in Switzerland unless you are a money-making machine. So he'll do whatever it takes. He's like a midfield enforcer, if you like, when it comes to the financial stability of the club. But I don't know if we need to be talking about legacies. I don't think the board have done anything particularly wrong. We had the minute there was protests against him last season. I mean, Ross Wilson's away. Maybe he was going away anyway, and then we get a wee reshuffle. We get a new chairman, etc. It's like they're reacting to the fans and saying, "Right, okay, it's not be good enough. We'll reshuffle this." I think they will back the manager. I think they might have learned lessons by how much they backed Michael Beale. The Niels Coppin thing seems to be a great move. And I think getting the club, we're constantly, because of 2012, we're constantly trying to build foundations. We're constantly trying to top up the foundations underneath, as well as making sure things are going on better above, you know, the manager. And we need to keep doing that. But I don't know if there's always ego involved and there's a lot of money involved. We board members, but I'm not sure we're at the point where we need to worry too much about their legacy or whatever. It's more a case of, if it doesn't happen, they'll be getting hounded out. I don't think that's right. I think we've got to be more patient, but we just know that just now it really is. It'll be the old day crush barriers morphing into sharks on Edmondson Drive this time. If there's more, another manager has to go and doesn't get backed. But it's a big summer, mate. It really is a big summer. He says copping out.
Yeah, definitely a huge summer ahead. Right, I think we'll call it time there. All that's left for me to do is thank my guests. Alex, thanks as always.
It was Brøndby. Hibs were playing Brøndby. I forgot to mention that, and that's just outside Copenhagen. So sorry about that, folks. Just rewind to the beginning, and that'll make more sense now. Thanks very much, guys. Grant, great to be on with you, mate. Thanks, top hosting there, Brian, and thanks to everybody for putting up with my patter.
Thank you. Grant, thanks for joining.
That was good, mate. Enjoyed that. Thank you.
Cheers. As well as being live tonight, the show will be available on all podcasting platforms, iTunes, Spotify, Acast, and Stitcher. We'll be back on Friday evening to look ahead to the Scottish Cup final. Until next time, bye for now.